Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Debate Simplified on the Policy Debate Central YouTube channel. My name is Jack Young. I'm a debater at the Barkley Forum at Emory University, former debater at Montgomery Bell Academy, and now coaching and working with Montgomery Bell. This is our series where we attempt to simplify the more advanced concepts in debate and help you all improve. This is a continuation of the theme from episode 3, where I'm not going to be talking about a specific debate related concept, but rather a more macro focused idea. Last episode, I talked about how to make cards look aesthetically pleasing and how to make files look organized. I'm going to take even a step further back and talk about the psychology of debate and how to improve in debate. So, quick disclaimer here. I am not a smart guy. I am not a genius. And a lot of what I'm going to say in terms of psychology and the sort of problems that debaters run into is reflected from my own personal experience, right? So this means that it's not going to be totally descriptive of maybe what you're feeling and what your relationship with debate looks like. And I'm not a professional on any of the medical issues or some of the other sort of hard problems that occur in debate. So if you do, and if you are facing those problems, I strongly urge you to seek professional help. Now, of course, we're not going to be talking about actual wide scoping medical problems, right? I just want to talk about the way in which we have relationships with debate and the learning process in debate. So I will be talking about some more harder issues like anxiety and in competition, but I think that this is an under-discussed issue in debate that requires some intelligent and hard to have conversations. And I think it's useful for people that have been in the activity for a while, like me, although I'm still improving and still debating, to talk about their sort of experience with some of the challenges that come with debate. So let's talk about the game of debate really quickly because it's a very strange game, right? So it's a game without a scoreboard, which means it relies sort of on a subjective interpretation on how good you've done. We can think of this in terms of like a specific round, like a judge has a subjective interpretation of if you lost or won, and oftentimes this devolves into sort of their biases on maybe arguments that they like or dislike, and you can do things to improve given the biases that the judge might have on particular styles of arguments. But fundamentally, you cannot objectively win a debate round, so it's all subjective. Debate's also very highly complex, involves very sort of specific skill sets that you don't normally train, is very difficult to get good at. So, like the process of flowing and spreading, the process of taking notes at very high words per minute ranges, that's a specific skill that you often don't train, especially when we get to like the 300 words per minute level. Like just taking notes in a class doesn't make you better at flowing necessarily. It involves more compartmentalized and very meta debate related questions like counterpoint competition, etc., which are very complex and nuanced. And thinking about that might not necessarily help you think about some of the other things that you have in your life. So if you're very good at math, for example, that doesn't mean that you're going to be very good at counterpoint competition. And debate is a very difficult game where a ton of very smart people are spending lots of time trying to get very good at debate. But there's always something for everyone that they can get better at, and you can't really control what happens in particular debates. So even if you think that you are really good at the CAPK, if an AF no links the CAPK, then you're kind of in a hard position, right? All these factors means that debate is by nature a little bit unfair. Um, there, of course, there's going to be a wide variety of types of debaters that are watching this. So maybe you're on a bigger team and you think that, you wish that you could have more travel opportunities with that bigger team, or that you're putting lots of effort in and then, part of the machine is just not recognizing that effort. Or if you're a smaller team, maybe you don't have a coach, or maybe your parents are funding, your traveling and stuff. Well, obviously that's a sort of different set of challenges. And sometimes you just get a judge who doesn't really care, might be tired, might have partied last night, or is a parent, so it's kind of difficult to have a truly fair debate round all the time. And yet, here we are. I'm creating a lecture on debate. I've filmed these. I find it fun. I love debating, and here you are watching it. So clearly, we all are playing it for different sorts of reasons, and we do like the activity in some sort of way. Now, there's lots of reasons, maybe in high school, why you would do debate. I can think of a few reasons, like maybe you're competitively motivated, maybe you like the friends that you found in debate because debate is sort of a circle of very smart people. So, if you're a smart person, you like talking to other smart people, and maybe you think it's good for your college resume, or maybe it's some mix of all these factors. And a very interesting aspect of debate is how often the debaters inside the activity want to quit it and yet don't. Lots of people tell people that they're going to quit, and because debate itself is very frustrating. Um, and especially in high school, if debate's an event that you care about, it comes together with lots of the other strange facets of growing up and being a high school student. So you have lots of other stuff that's going on. You have classes, you have extracurriculars, you have the social pressure of sort of becoming a more responsible person. And this is also true for college debate. I will say here that, I've only been in college debate itself, debating in college for one semester. Um, but lots of the same factors are still applying here. In college, debate's more of debate is more optional. You can have a sort of different relationship with debate. You can cultivate your own sort of way in which you engage in debate. So if you really like it, you can do as much as possible. And if you just want to go to a few tournaments, usually that's more of a common phenomenon in college. But in any case, the process of debating and getting better at debate is a process of, in my opinion, psychological and personal maturity. So you mature with your relationship with debate, and the way in which you engage in debate can also inform the way in which you're engaging in the other facets of life that matter. Um, there is still a sort of social pressure in high school and college that is particularly unique to debate, in my opinion. So the idea of the Debaters Club is something I've written about, and also the rep. The rep sometimes quantifies the rep DA, Discord group chats, etc. All these things are ways in which there's a sort of implicit hierarchy of debaters, and at some level this feels unfair, and that you maybe if you feel as though you're outside of that, it is very troubling and might sort of be a generator of insecurity for you. And this also affects the way in which sometimes you get judged, right? Because if you are debating a team that the judge knows and thinks is a very good team, then you're already sort of at a disadvantage if that judge doesn't know who you are. So that's the rep DA. It's short for reputation, and reputation is sort of an implicit factor in the way the judges decide debates, and that's not a reason why judges are bad people or particularly evil. It's just that because debate relies on subjective interpretations, even really good faith judges will always be swamped by their own personal biases. All that's to say, though, that debate is formative for how you grow up and can affect the way in which you feel about your life at large. So, particularly with me, I've had various tournaments, especially in high school, where I underperformed my expectation for that tournament, and it just made the rest of my month just like really terrible. I felt bad about myself. I felt just not confident in my ability. Like I was spending so much time in debate and I, couldn't clear at this tournament or couldn't get a bid, whatever the specific context of the tournament was. And it really did like actually personally affect me outside of the debate round, which is sort of interesting, right? Because, as much as debate is something that matters to me and probably matters to you, and we spend lots of times trying to get better at it, it is an external part of our life. Like our life is not debate. Debate is a part of our life. So it's a question about how we understand the relationship between our life and debate in our life. That is sort of the locus point of this conversation that I want to have. So I'll begin with a very quick personal description of my history with debate. So, as of today, as of December 2024, I have debated in 310 individual debate rounds. So that's separated from 110 middle school rounds, 170 high school rounds, and 30 college rounds. I would say that I'm certainly in like the top 1% of amount of debates done by a person out of like any of the active debaters in college right now. Because I started early, because I went to MBA. I have lots of experience in the debate round alone. I did a quick calculation. If an average debate's about 2.5 hours, then it means that I've spent 775 total hours in debates alone, the process of debating, which is more than an entire month of debating in round. But that also doesn't include talking about it, cutting cards, spending times with friends made from debate, where we sort of casually discuss debate, the people in debate, in lab, practice rounds, taking notes, all that stuff. The amount of time I've spent thinking about and being in debate is so much higher than just me being in round. I would say it's certainly over 5,000 total hours of my past, 7 years of my life. And I would say it's hard for me to guess. I think about debate so much that it's probably 10,000 total hours minimum. So, like, clearly, I am very passionate and invested in debate, and I care about it quite a lot. I think that no matter how many hours you've totally spent, and it's hard to quantify exactly, debate does matter. So the way in which we have and think about competition in debate is a very important factor for the rest of our life. And it shapes a lot of the ways in which we think about the nature of competition and the nature of ourselves as debaters trying to get better at a very difficult sort of set of skills. And this is, I guess, the entire premise of this lecture, right? The fact that debate does matter is a reason that we should have conversations about the way in which we relate to debate in competition. So let's talk about learning in debate. Because debate's a highly complex game, learning in debate naturally takes a very long time, no matter how good, naturally smart, or naturally good you are at debate. Um, but if you want to get better at learning debate, you should focus and really think about how you want to learn from debate and how you want to learn from specific debate rounds, right? So if you're a very good learner at debate, it doesn't matter if you're the naturally worst debater ever. If you are the best learner at debate, you can get to a point where you are the debater that you want to become in terms of your goals, right? So it doesn't matter if you are when you started as a novice, you went like 1-5 at your first tournaments, because that's what happened to me. I went 1-5 at my first novice tournament, but I didn't give it up because I realized that I was very passionate and wanted to learn so much about this activity. So it's interesting that if we agree with this premise that like learning in debate is a feature of debate that we should think a lot about and be very critical about how we approach learning and debate psychology, it's interesting that there's not a lot of discussion, especially publicly on YouTube. Obviously, I think camps have some lectures on this, but they're all private. It's under discussed, and I think that under discussion is problematic. Personally, I'm not the best learner at debate. I get very frustrated sometimes with particular debate rounds. If I lose a round, if you'll see me at a tournament and I just came off a round, I don't want to talk to you. I'm very upset. I'm losing my mind after losing rounds and stuff. Sometimes, especially in high school, I didn't want to listen to feedback because I thought the judge was bad and just didn't know what was going on. But no matter how frustrated I've ever been in debate, I still had this fundamental love and passion for debate. And the way in which I have sort of used that passion and that love to further my sort of educational process in debate, the way in which I've cultivated that love and passion to become better at debate is the most important part about debate for me, because the way in which I've realized and changed my relationship with debate is also an understanding of how I changed my relationship with learning and in life in general. So I think that, you know, because wins and losses are fleeting, like I couldn't tell you the round I lost that I got frustrated about 2 years ago, even though in the moment it felt particularly painful for me. You know, the most important thing is that you are understanding and maturing in your relationship with debate. So, the arc of learning in debate, I would say, roughly follows the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, there actually is like diverging scientific evidence about the Dunning-Kruger effect, but I, didn't want to make a chart in Microsoft Word, and I'm not very good at making charts, so I just wanted to sort of apply something in Google. So x-axis is competence, y-axis is confidence. We'll say here that the y-axis is like not only confidence but your perception of how much you're learning and getting better at debate. Um, as you start debate as a novice, you're going to be learning a lot, right? So your first round ever, you're going to be incredibly nervous naturally, and then you're sort of for 6 months, year in debate, you're going to feel like, oh, I understand debate now. I understand what a K is. I understand a DA. I understand impact calculus, all that stuff. And then you get into varsity, and then you realize how much you actually don't know about debate. You realize that there is so much more complex stuff that can happen in a particular debate round that it's very difficult to win. And the transition between JV to varsity and novice to JV is sort of the idea here of how even though you're increasing your competency, your confidence decreases. And we'll say that this sort of pit here, where the apex is like, your maybe your first novice tournament win, or maybe make it to the elimination rounds and you feel like you understand debate. Once you get into the varsity level and then you start competing against the best teams in the country, and maybe you start going nationally, you realize that you are actually not as confident in your ability and capability in debate as you once previously thought. And you can see here that this process, this sort of valley after the peak of novice learning, is much, much, longer than the process to get to this original confidence. And it takes a very long time to become as confident as possible in your debate skills as you were maybe in your first year of debate, right? So, obviously this is not an exact science of how we want to quantify this chart, but it is important, right? And the main conversation here, I think, is that you can see that actually, you know, although the confidence is like decreasing here, in terms of like your absolute confidence, you're still kind of high. But strangely, you kind of reach this sort of pit of not confidence or inconfidence, where even though you're far more competent than you were here, you sort of hit this brick wall. And that is perhaps one of the biggest problems I think debaters are facing in high school, is that, in maybe their second or third year, they're hitting this sort of very difficult position where they don't feel very confident in their debate skills, even though they are far more competent than they actually realize. So we can sort of understand this sort of chart in terms of stages of mastery. So as a novice, you begin to learn rapidly and you learn basically everything all the time. So maybe you're a very good novice, maybe you're not. And in my view, how good you are as a novice has literally zero of reflection on how good you can potentially be as a debater or how good you actually will become. But when you go into a round, maybe you're an AF, and then they read a K, and you're like, oh, what the hell is this? You debate the K, and you're like, oh, I understand sort of what a K is, right? That's the process of learning. You learn so quickly, and you're learning basically everything because the total amount of knowledge accessible to you is so high because you don't really know anything, that if you just encounter that knowledge, the difficulty in accessing that knowledge is quite low, and you can start to begin to learn basic concepts. You can then become sort of an intermediate slash advanced level novice, where you start to get off the packet, which is one of the hardest transitions in debate, but you're still learning from every debate. And this is sort of the deacceleration, where you maybe as a novice or slash JV, you kind of think that you understand everything, and then you sort of hit this beginning deacceleration, or sort of total decrease in confidence, that is the beginning of the Valley of Despair, which is this sort of feature where your total confidence is still decreasing, although it's becomes a little bit slower. As an intermediary, you might be accustomed to open debate more so, and you might even be regionally competitive. You begin to understand sort of the common ideas behind arguments. You know that the CAPK wants to read sustainability, for example. You know that some disads want to say time frame, some disads want to say magnitude. You understand some advantages. You understand some like how to answer some advantages potentially if you're a neg, if you're a 2N, all that sort of stuff. But it's still hard for you to win lots of debates against advanced teams, and the value of despair continues because if you're facing an advanced level team that might be over here in terms of total competence, if you're over here, there is still a lot of information about how to even say particular arguments, how to like it's not just about flowing and get the arguments down and answering them. It's about what arguments you're actually saying there, and that is a very complex, obviously argument specific sort of situation. But it doesn't just because you understand everything that's sort of going on, that might not mean that you're able to execute on all of your knowledge. And that is one of the bigger differences between the intermediary and the advanced, is that the advanced debaters have had those debates that you are now just having, where they know maybe what judges like to hear on particular arguments, and they know because they've had this particular debate maybe 5 or 10 times, or maybe have thought about this issue a lot, they have in their mind already mapped out what the 2AR is. And maybe you're sort of just catching up to that. Then we get the early advance stage, and this is the beginning of the end of the value of despair. So maybe intermediates right here, and then you start to begin to increase your confidence, but you can see that the increase in confidence is actually quite slow. And you're regaining some of your confidence, and you might begin or end, or this sort of stage, this sort of period here, I would say, is where lots of problems with debate related anxiety arise. So, this is where you see imposter syndrome, competitive anxiety. You might begin to care about bid tracker or trying to get 2 bids to go to the TOC. You might be very stressed out about maybe getting on the other voted section of the coaches poll, and you really care about that. Maybe you really care about getting a particular lab in next year's camp, so you're like super worried about that. That's where we get to see lots of imposter syndrome and competitive anxiety. Then we get to the advanced, moderate advanced stage, where you're naturally competitive. You're obviously very good at debater. You might be on the coaches poll. You might not be on the coaches poll. This is because the coaches poll is very bad at measuring how good teams actually are. I think some people need to hear this. I will say that I work with Josh Clark, who organizes the coaches poll, and I think that the coaches poll is limitedly useful. However, it is a very bad descriptor of how good you are actually as a debater. This is because the coaches who vote on the coaches poll, one, often have like strange conflicts of interest. Two, a lot of them just don't care, and they ask their debaters to rank people, and then those debaters might be worse than you, and they don't even understand how good you are. And three is just like, even if the coaches and the debaters are very good at ranking people, they can't watch every debater, and they'll still always be sort of biased implicitly by who they expect to be good, which means that if you're a part of a very nationally established program, if you go to a big school, you're obviously going to have a little bit more credibility on the coaches poll. Whereas if you are very passionate about debate and you go to a school and you're the only team and you're very good at debate, oftentimes there's a huge lag effect, especially early in the year, where because they don't even know what your school is, they will just not vote for you. And then you kind of have to constantly improve yourself. So when we think about the coaches poll, it's obviously a great accomplishment for the debaters that make it. But if you don't make it, just realize that the coaches poll is just not an accurate way of reflecting the skill of potential debaters. Lastly, we get to the late advanced stage of debate. So the late advanced stage in terms of high school, because lots of late advanced debaters in high school transition to college, and then they're still not in the late advanced period. So we're sort of talking about high school in particular here. You're one of the top teams. Everyone thinks you're very good. Yet still, there's lots of ways to improve. Interestingly, for the late advanced stage debaters, there actually might be a little sense of overconfidence in that you might feel like you're infallible, you're winning basically every round. You might go undefeated in some prelims, and then you might just lose an elimination round to a team that you might have thought is worse than you, but maybe they have thought about a particular issue more than you. And you realize that debate is still very complex, and no matter how good you actually are at it relative to everyone else, there's still so much to learn and so many issues in debate to think about that each area of improvement, like as you become better and better at debate, getting 1% better becomes exponentially more difficult as you advance in debate because there's still so much more advanced thinking, advanced concepts with particular arguments, some arguments you never even thought about, and one team might show up one day and beat you on that argument, and you feel like, what the hell? Like, that was crazy. But it gets a lot harder at refining your craft to such a level where you feel incredibly confident in your skill in debate. So I'll talk about the common issues in debate that I've identified. First is over or under confidence, and I'll talk very extensively about that. Second is burnout. Third is an over focus on debate. And four is climbing the chart, either the reputation chart nationally or on your team. So let's talk about over and under confidence, beginning with underconfidence. And let's talk about imposter syndrome. So, imposter syndrome is defined as, quote, a self doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high achieving individuals. So, some of the features of imposter syndrome are an overgeneralization of mistakes as synonymous with a lack of personal intelligence or rigor. This is extremely important understanding imposter syndrome because imposter syndrome is essentially uh, a manifestation of a particular sort of anxiety that says that the mistakes that you make in debate are reflections of sort of an immutable personal characteristic or lack of intelligence or lack of rigor in debate rounds that you will never be able to resolve, and that the good debaters will always be good and better than you, and that if you're winning rounds, that you're not fitting in, that you are an imposter with the rest of those good debaters who you think that are always going to be better than you. And that is basically how imposter syndrome manifests in debate. So you might begin to realize that, let's say that you are maybe a top 20 team and you're on the coaches pool and it feels really like personally gratifying. However, you might feel like you don't deserve being on the coaches poll. You might feel like you don't deserve to be in those conversations. You might feel like you don't deserve to be in quarterfinals, right? Because you feel like all the failures and mistakes that you make in a tournament or over the course of your career, those are evidence that you are actually not that good at debate and that you're sort of just faking it and that you're lucky. A second trait of imposter syndrome that the article I gave y'all, Huiker et al. Says is phobia. I did not say that correctly, which is a personal fear, extensive fear of failure. So the interesting thing with imposter syndrome is that imposter syndrome is more highly associated with a very intelligent and like high achieving individuals. Um, so they are, in a sense, perfectionist. They want to think that they need to become the best debater possible in order to fit in and not be an imposter within that sort of group of debaters. So, phobia is the fear of failure and recognizing that if you fail in any category, that you will not be sufficiently fitting in and you will not be an imposter. And achievement is the opposite, but also usually comes in tandem with a fear of failure. So achievement is a fear of success in tandem with a fear of failure. So if once you do become successful, you become fearful of that success. You feel like that it's always able to be lost. You feel like in any round you could lose that sense of confidence and security that you have gained over the process of debating. And when you lose a round, you focus extensively on that loss as opposed to reveling in all the successes that you've had in a particular year or a particular tournament. So in my mind, debate uniquely fosters a sense of imposter syndrome. The reasons for this is that everyone in debate, for the most part, is extremely intelligent, and intelligence is a very like associative factor for imposter syndrome, especially in if you are an intelligent person and you're engaging with other intelligent people. If you always have a level of anxiety about your innate level of intelligence, then you see all the other fascinating, very smart, very creative people in the debate space, and you're like, I could never potentially be that. Additionally, with debate, there's always this level of community consensus, which I talked about earlier with the reputation, the coaches poll, etc. And there's always this sort of like, at least for me, there's always this fear of like the group chat or like how other people are talking about you. And this is how I talk about and understand drama in debates. Like, I would really like if the best debaters, the people who I hold really highly, thought of me as a very good debater, and I want to prove to them that I'm there. But that always relies on sort of this idea that those good debaters are already in an external camp from you, right? Like you rely upon that external level of validation in order to become and feel confident in yourself, which is strange because it always presumes a difference where you are not an accurate reflection of who is a good debater in that consensus. So no matter what they actually think, you will never actually truly fit into that camp. I talked about how imposter syndrome comes in tandem with perfectionism and intelligence, and the point here is like because debate you can never be a perfect debater. If you are an intelligent person, you want to become the best perfect debater. Like you have this idea that you want to become the best without flaw. The problem is that you'll always have flaws in debate, but you perceive that those flaws are representations of your own personal failures. So losses and wins become seen as part of personal failures or personal successes. But the issue is that once you reach a certain level at debate, you presume that you have to win, that you should win. So anytime you do win, it doesn't matter. The loss, the feeling of loss is like 10 to 15 times as emotionally like has a higher emotional magnitude than the emotional failure and process of losing. So competition obviously magnifies the effect of the imposter syndrome, and because we feel as humans just like not negative emotions feel just worse to us than positive emotions. That means that once you reach a certain level where you feel like you have to win, you have to keep up this level of success, that if you lose any round, you could lose that innate sense of confidence that you've given yourself through external validation. Once you do lose a round, that loss becomes particularly harmful. The flip side of the imposter syndrome is overconfidence. So this is an overemphasis on judge failure, judge screws, or other teams using tricks that you can't answer. But in reality, everything in debate is basically a trick, which means that overconfidence also, strangely, paradoxically, maybe leads to a doubt that there's nothing I can do to fix this because debate itself is just a silly activity and no one knows what's going on. I know what's best. And oftentimes, and strangely, overconfidence also comes in tandem with underconfidence in some ways, right? Like a debater might not be totally underconfident or overconfident. They might have a mix of over and underconfidence, but both sides of that spectrum don't actually truly reflect a debater's honest true level of skill. So the issue with both imposter syndrome and overconfidence is the mindset in which you approach debate as competition, the process of winning and losing. Because it views losses and wins as aspects, immutable aspects of your character that cannot be iteratively changed through the process of improvement, right? So the issue here is not that you are just wrong in your description of how good you think you are, but that the level of confidence that you prescribe yourself with debate is a personal characteristic of how good or bad of a person you innately are, which is the problem with imposter syndrome and overconfidence. So we have to naturally then approach debate via an alternative approach, right? Because as I already mentioned, winning and losses are inherently fleeting in debate. No matter how much you feel like a particular round matters, you'll probably forget about it in 5 years, right? So even if you are a competitive person, it's not about necessarily winning or losing. The competitive mindset that you need to have with debate, the way in which you need to change competition is that while wins and losses are incredibly personally motivating, the process and the best aspect of debate is not winning or losing a particular round, because that is the culmination of a wider process that occurs as you approach debate. So competition is a process of traveling to that destination. And the process itself is what's worthwhile, right? This is not to say that competition does not matter. If you are a competitive person, I cannot tell you that competition does not matter. I'm highly competitive in debate. I really want to win every round I'm engaged in, but it's a question about how I actually have all the steps that approach that final win. And what does that win actually signify, right? If you have this entire process where you are doing your best to cut the best files, you're doing your best at the tournament, you're keeping track of your health, you're eating well, you're sleeping, you are practice debating, you're talking to your friends, you're so engaged in this one argument you think it's just going to crush the AF that you might debate in quarterfinals. Making that file and going through that process, that is what debate is. It is not the final culmination of that, which is the judge's reflection on how good they thought that process was. Because judges are very good, they're smart people, but that final level of external validation is insufficient for you to feel like the competitive process either did or did not work out, right? It is just an external factor, the final culmination. And if 99% of debate is the process of cutting the file, which is like 80%, then it's actually debating the file, which is 19%. The final 1% is what the judge actually thinks, the final 30 minutes of that deliberative process. And the reality of the situation is that not everyone is going to win the NDT or TOC, but trying to, like the idea that you can win the NDT or TOC, that you can beat that particular team that you've lost to like 5 times in a row, that is why debate is a rewarding process. The process of trying to get to that final outcome is the thing that matters. And the inverse of this is that if you use the previous other approach to the debate that manifests in imposter syndrome, then it results in very strange outcomes that don't make sense upon actual genuine reflection on what matters in debate, right? Are you innately a less intelligent or creative person because a single judge voted against you in round 5 of whatever tournament? The answer should be clearly no. That final judge does not reflect the entire process of debating itself. Second point here is that debate is not simply an external part of your life. It is not just a thing that you engage in that is not reflective of other portions of your life. And how you approach debate and competition is in large part a manifestation of the other things that are going on in your life and your just sort of personal attitude to life in general. So some of debate's best benefits are helping you understand and refine yourself as a person, as a competitor, and overcoming your weaknesses as a debater. Because debate is so difficult, everyone is weak at something, and becoming better at your weaknesses, like actually genuinely realizing that your weaknesses exist and putting lots of time in becoming better at your weaknesses so that your weaknesses eventually become a strength, that level of personal reflection, that process of personal refinement, because debate is so hard, if you learn how to overcome your weaknesses in debate and learn how to learn in debate, then I guarantee you that you can learn in literally any other facet of your life, which should clearly matter more than if you won a particular debate round or not. But in order to get to this final conclusion and this alternative approach in debate, you need to understand the root of your insecurity that manifests in over or underconfidence. Do you feel not okay with how you're debating, or are you scared that others think that you are a bad debater? And that requires genuine personal reflection that I cannot give you the answer to in a singular lecture. But realize that debate is especially anxiety inducing. There's a reason why most people will never touch policy debate ever, right? The fact that you even got to the first round of your novice tournament, that is better than the wide majority of people that engage with debate, right? The process of speaking, giving a speech, making argumentation, that you have sort of this like quick reaction, this 15 seconds to say something against what the other team said. It is anxiety inducing to just sort of create an answer to something, right? Do line by line, etc. And because debate relies upon in some ways an external validator in terms of a judge and the community consensus to win or lose rounds, you kind of always require this. So the process of debate and learning and understanding an alternative approach to debate is understanding what that external validation actually means. It actually reflects upon you and how to eventually overcome the problem, the distance between you and the external validation that matters in your relationship with debate. So it requires an understanding of what you think you get out of debate, because it is not just winning or losing. There are so many other better factors of debate than the final decision that a judge comes to. Is it that you met your best friend in debate and that you debate? Maybe you debate together. Is it a fun game to play? Do you like the sense of community? Do you like the sense of competition? Even if you do only really care about competition, realistically understanding that your weaknesses as a debater and getting better at those while simultaneously recognizing and being happy with your strengths is an important part of personal development that debate teaches you and that you can understand and reflect upon. So all this is to lead up to this point and some of my tips in overcoming debate-related insecurity. A single lecture or compliment cannot reduce your insecurity, because insecurity manifests itself from a conversation that you have with yourself. And if you always are doubting the external validation, if you always think that a compliment might be ingenuine, or if, a lecture does not actually fully resolve the conversation that you have with yourself, you need to realize that your relationship with debate and confidence, understanding that, and just understanding that the anxiety is manifest from a conversation that you have with yourself and a misrecognition, a misdiagnosis of what's going on in your head. That is the first step in overcoming debate-related anxiety. But it's a personal process that only you can take responsibility for. I cannot give you that confidence. A single compliment from your coach cannot give you that confidence. And this personal process takes years of time. And if you want to get better, and if you want to feel less debate-related anxiety, then that is something you have to take responsibility for, no matter what. There will never be a day in which you become insecure. It's not a switch. There's never going to be a day in which everyone thinks that you're a good debater. That's just not how it works. It's an iterative process that takes months, if not years, in debate. Okay? So that's before we even get into like how I think in approaching anxiety in debate, you have to realize that it's a hard process. But overcoming that process, learning how to overcome anxiety in debate, because debate is difficult, because it is hard, if you can successfully do that, then insecurity and any other facet of your life, I guarantee you, will be decreased. And I think that that is a benefit of debate that people don't talk about. So, how to overcome insecurity? First is simply just improving your craft. So, because over and underconfidence are misdiagnoses of how truly good you actually are, it's your defense mechanism against honesty with debate. If you're underconfident, you're not accurately confronting the truth level of how good you actually are, and same obviously applies with overconfidence. And it's interesting because even very highly skilled debaters who I think are so much better than me, just much more creative, much smarter, they still struggle with insecurity in debate, right? Because insecurity doesn't just happen if you're bad at an activity, right? Like, insecurity is representative of a different sort of facet of personal psychology. It is a fear of something, right? But the problem with insecurity is that it doesn't help you do anything. It doesn't make you a better debater. It does not accurately tell you how good you are. It doesn't give you any truth. It is a defense mechanism against what you are innately fearful of. So, because that is the case, just getting better or worse might not necessarily help you in debate. So, getting better at debate is obviously important. Like, if you're getting better at debate and winning more rounds, you might feel less insecure. But there's an additional transfer effect at getting better at other things outside of debate where you realize that you can improve as a competitor. And this flips the script in your mind because you get used to confidence in winning. Your mindset shifts in debate to, this is too hard, I'll never get better at it, I will be exactly what I am. And instead, if you become better at something else, your brain realizes, I can get better at things. I can be very good at something. What is it in debate that is preventing me from being the best, and what can I do to overcome that? So, what are some other things that I would recommend that you get good at? A is sport or fitness. So, for me, I was sort of in this process of anxiety and debate, particularly in online era of debate. So, what happened was that, COVID, I was inside all the time. I wasn't getting sunlight. I wasn't sleeping well. I decided to play more sports. I made a basketball team with the NBA debate team. I went to the gym often. And you don't have to like the gym or sports. There's other things I could recommend here. But for me, this was very, very important in how I changed my relationship with just getting better at things. Because with sports and going to the gym and fitness, along with just being more very clearly an area which you can improve at objectively, like debate, you might go 4-2, 3-3, 5-1, 6-0, 2-4 at a particular sequence of tournaments. It's like, am I even getting better? Am I getting worse? What's going on? Speaker points are insanely arbitrary and don't make any sense. It's like, am I even getting better? I don't know. So fitness and going to the gym are very clearly easier to get tangibly better at. Like, I'm lifting more weight, or I'm faster, or my 3-point percentage is actually just increasing. The physical clarity that you get from taking care of your health in debate is extremely important with the mental clarity that you will get from that you need in debate. So there's obviously a tremendous amount of scientific literature that suggests that, if you are a fit person or if you're not a fit person, you'll either have more clarity or be less clear. You'll feel more confident in general. That is a well-established fact that I'm not going to get into the weeds here. That matters. And it's a very, very significant effect. So, at the bare minimum, if you don't want to go to the gym, that's fine. Do not be the one labby who has 3 bangs a day, sleeps for 4 hours, and just cut cards. That's a terrible approach to debate that will get you absolutely nowhere and will lead to burnout, both mentally and physically. And you're just one day going to drop, you're going to go to bed, you're going to feel like absolute crap, and you're going to lose all your motivation. So you have to, at the very least, take care of your health at some level. You have to care. Do whatever you like. I guarantee you there's at least one thing that you will like that's physical. It can be yoga, it can be gym, it can be a sport, it can be cooking nice food that's also health. It can be anything. Just taking care of that process is, in my opinion, a prerequisite to overcoming some of the issues that arise when your body is not healthy, because then you'll think and your brain will become less healthy too. That's a fact. So just learn it. You have to get over it. If you don't want to go to the gym, it's okay, but you have to take personal responsibility, right? If you want to overcome insecurity, you have to realize that it is not easy to overcome. And you have to do it day in, day out. You have to get better. Okay? B is another extracurricular. So if you're a regional chess champion, or if you're like the top final whatever thing for Model UN, whatever it's called, I don't remember, then the default mode of analysis in your brain is that I can be good at something. How can I get better? Because you'll realize that with any activity, there's a consensus, right? If I'm a regional chess champion, if I'm the best chess champion in Decatur, Georgia, let's say, then the other chess champions in Decatur, Georgia, will be like, oh crap, Jack is insane at chess. You know, the Queen's Gambit or whatever. Yeah, he's insane at Queen's Gambit. I can't go 1d4. You know, that's very important, right? That is, you realize that's like, well, okay, I go out in my other parts of my life. Maybe I meet a stranger. This guy doesn't know how good I am at Queen's Gambit. But if he knew how good I could be, if he even understood, if he even had the ability to understand how good I could be at the Queen's Gambit, then he would be impressed. And that equally applies with debate. If you get good at another extracurricular, if you get good at chess, Model UN, mock trial, you get used to success. Because low key, getting good at mock trials a lot easier than getting good at debate, at least from what I've seen. So once you reach success in other parts of your life, then you realize that you can be a very good debater as well. C is another academic subject, and the logic here is the same. If you're insanely good at math, if you're doing derivatives like it's nobody's business, then you realize, wow, math is hard, derivatives are hard, or like, by the way, like understanding poetry or like writing, like that's a skill that like a lot of people don't have. And if you're the best writer or the best mathematician at your school, then people are like, did you know that Jack can do derivative rule XYZ? I don't know anything about math. Those people will be like, wow, this is a very impressive person that's very smart. And you are smart if you care about debate, I think. You can do all that. You can be good at least one thing. And that's, again, flips your brain into that more positive mode of analysis. D is a hobby with clearer modes of improvement that are not just purely dopamine generators. So like, you know, I would say that maybe if you get really good at Fortnite, for example, maybe this would have a similar positive effect. However, you know, if you're just at home playing video games all the time and you're like, you know, a hard set gold League of Legends player for 4 years, that's not going to really make you feel more or less better. So I would suggest maybe hobbies that are very clarity inducing, reading, writing, that also have more clearer modes of improvement, that other people can recognize and realize the complexity of yourself and your innate level of intelligence. And getting better at these things takes months and years, just like overcoming debate specific anxiety does. But if you agree with me that debate's a very hard activity, one of the hardest things that you can do, and you get better at something smaller that might be easier to get better at, but you still overcome the challenges there, then you realize that you can overcome the challenges in debate. And then, if that logic is true, then you can specialize in a specific debate-related skill. So it's a lot easier to get good at being the best competition debater, or the best psychoanalysis debater, or the best oil DA debater on your team. Because the related skills there, while there are some generalizable debate skills that will help you become the best at that, if you realize that you can become very specialized at one particular facet at debate, then you realize that the generalizable skills in debate are actually just aggregates of the specialized skills. So if you become very specialized in one area, then you learn how to become very good at one particular thing. That logic and that mode of analysis can then apply to other related things. If you don't want to get like very good at one argument and you really like research, then just become the best researcher possible. What I've noticed about research is that the best researchers recognize the other best researchers, right? So if you're cutting cards like crazy, if your producer tag is on like 50 cards that a judge reads, and that judge is someone who appreciates research and they like your research, lots of times they'll like talk to you and be like, wow, you are one of the best researchers in high school right now. And research is a hard skill. And if you're really passionate about research, then you can easily become the best researcher on your team. And everyone will appreciate that. And everyone will recognize the amount of time that it takes to research and get good at that mode of debate. So if you want to get good at research, read or watch my lecture from yesterday. And as I said, each area of debate builds upon the others, and it increases your general level of competency. So if you get research swag, then you can get framework swag. You realize that swag is not general, it's specific, and you become very good and confident in one area that reflects upon others. Second is that you need to become open to experience in debate. Insecurity, one of the aspects of insecurity is that you are often more scared of what you do not understand. So there's, I think lots of people have this experience where it's like, there's someone super cool at your school or, in your general circle or whatever that you would love to become friends with, but you're intimidated by them. And then one day you just talk to them and you realize that they're usually pretty chill and they like you, and then you become friends, right? You were intimidated by sort of an idea of something that you didn't understand. And because you're scared of what you don't understand, you need to become open to losing. You need to be open to the idea of rejection, right? So if you're not confident in specific types of debates, so competition or framework, the best solution is having those debates and practicing on those debates and getting genuine feedback from judges or coaches or friends on how good you're actually doing, right? So if you have never gone for security and you're in your senior year and this tournament really matters to you, and maybe your coach or maybe your friend put out a security file and you really want to go for security, but you've never gone for security once in your life, right? You will just not be as good at security as you could have been. You will miss out because you were too scared of going for security in your sophomore year and you never got that feedback. You never got that level of understanding what it's like to give a security 2-NR, what it's like to give a security block. So when that big round comes and you think that security is a good option, you will not simply just never give the best version of the security 2-NR that you could have gone for. And if you think that, well, security is easy, counterpoint competition, that's easy, that is a manifestation of overconfidence. That is avoiding a genuine conversation about what you are and are not good at in debate. So the approach you should have is like, I might lose if I go for security in round 4 against a team that I might otherwise have beaten if I just went for the uncooperative federalism counterpoint that I've gone for all the time. But if I lose that round, that is okay, because I've already lost hundreds of times. I know what losing feels like. I know that losing is not a reflection of how good I am as a debater. I'm just trying to learn and I'm just trying to get better at the security K, right? Third is that you have to understand what your insecurity is, right? A lot of people are insecure, but they don't know what they're insecure about. And realize that most insecurities are nonsensical. Debate is a game for nerds. And if you care about what other nerds think about you as a nerd, that seems a little silly. The community consensus is just other nerds ranking other nerds. Okay. Why does this matter? How does this reflect on me? Right? Bids, coaches poll, rep are asinine measures of how good you actually are at debate. And they are certainly, even if they are a somewhat honest reflection of how good you are, they obviously are not meaningful reflections on your personal worth. The idea that some random nerd in Washington thinks that I'm bad at going for the security K as a nerd in Georgia does not mean that I'm not a creative or worthwhile person that doesn't deserve praise, that doesn't have to feel confident in my debate ability, right? So that is not a meaningful reflection on what actually matters. And every insecurity that you'll have in your life is basically nonsensical. You're scared of what you don't know, and then you realize that what you were scared of is not that scary at all, right? And realizing that most insecurities are nonsensical is quite important. Oh, what? A 20-year-old judge thought that my framework argument was bad? Okay. How does that matter? You cannot tell me why that matters, because it doesn't. It does not, even if you're a very competitive person. So if imposter syndrome is overemphasizing external validation, then realize that next time you have that 20-year-old judge, you know how to go for framer next time, and you know how to improve, right? That is what competition should foster. It should not foster an over or under valuation on what the actual end process of debate looks like. Sometimes recognizing and thinking about your insecurities requires conversations with others, because you might not give yourself a personal reflection on what you are actually scared of. So friends, coaches, and mentors are important. And you need to build relationships with people who you trust enough to give you genuine feedback without a fear of judgment, without a fear that they're being too nice to you, or without a fear that they're being too mean to you, right? This is sort of a debate therapy, because the answers you come to yourself might be wrong. And if someone else says, oh, I think that you're worried about this, you might realize, wow, that is what I'm scared of. That is what I'm scared of. And I need to think about why am I scared of it in the first place? And if this insecurity is nonsensical, the answer will be certainly yes. Sometimes you need to hear what you don't want to hear, because over/underconfidence will tell you otherwise, right? Most times you don't just compliment people. And in life, there are some genres of people that just compliment any sort of person ever, right? Like, if you have a dog who's like clearly ugly and stupid, sorry, dogs are ugly and stupid, and you have this dog and you love him, you're like, oh, you're the smartest dog alive. No, he's not. You're just complimenting them, right? Like, that's not helpful for the dog if the dog wants to become less ugly and less stupid. So, if you need genuine feedback, you need genuine feedback. And you need to have the connections with people that allow you to have those genuine, actual conversations. And the flip side of that is that those people will come to you and ask you for advice. And the cardinal rule is that you should not lie to those people. You should be as genuine as possible with how other people are relating to anxiety. Last step, the final step, is accepting yourself as a debater, which is easier said than done, which is why this is at the very last portion of the Overcoming Insecurity segment, and it happens as a result of all the previous 3 steps. The point of recognizing and understanding and accepting yourself as a debater is not to think that you're infallible, that you are the best, or that you are not the best, in debate or otherwise. It is to recognize and accept who you are and what you're good at and what you contribute to the community. Me, Jack Young, I will never be the best at going for the energy DA on the college clean energy policy topic. I will not. I'm a 2N. I don't go for energy. Maybe next semester I will, but I'll try my best. And I just might not be the best at the energy DA. Similarly, my 1ARs will never be the best. I'm just not the best 1A. I am, no matter how much I try, honestly, just some people are better at being a 1A than me. But those people that are better at the 1A than me, not many of them are better at going for the psychoanalysis K than I am, right? And I'm happy. I'm the psychoanalysis guy. I'm the strategic stability guy. I'm the AI guy. I'm all that stuff. I'm the deterrence guy. That's who I am as a debater. And I'm also a guy who is a little sassy, makes jokes and rounds. That's who I am. And maybe that's not who you are. Maybe you think psychoanalysis is not falsifiable, and we can have that conversation in the comment section. But that is who I am. And that is the literal truth of the matter. I am what I am as a debater, and you are what you are as a debater. We will have flaws and strengths. I'm not perfect, you are not perfect, and that's just true. Every single debater, the best debaters ever, they are not perfect, and that's just true. And if you accept this literal truth, unburdened by insecurity, over and underconfidence, if you accept this, you will never feel out of place. You will never be an imposter, because you are exactly in the place where you have to be. You are yourself, which is exactly who you are. To feel insecure is to deny who you are, right? This PowerPoint's not perfect. This is a typo. Am I insecure about it? Maybe a little bit. But that's who I am. I'm a guy who likes making PowerPoints and talking about debate. Why should I be insecure about that? My friends might call me crazy for making these PowerPoints and slides. That's just who I am, right? So why be insecure about perfection? Because being the best is insanely overrated. No one is perfect. No, and there's probably one debater who will ever be the best, and that person still has insecurities that all of us deal with. So let's take a step back and realize that the process of competition, the process of getting better, that is the journey. That is not the destination. I want to win the NDT. That doesn't mean I will. I'll do my best. That's what matters. That process is what matters. Let's talk about the second big issue in debate, which is burnout. As you spend a lot of time in improvement, you spend a lot of time cutting cards, and then you go to a tournament and you might lose. You might lose all of your motivation in debate. You might lose that connection that you had with debate. So this might be compelled by a frustrating loss, just might be out of the blue. And a lot of the time, other parts of your life will add up, and your your relationship with debate has to shift a little bit, right? If you are not focusing on your friends outside of debate, or your family outside of debate, or your grades outside of debate, that's sometimes how burnout manifests, and I'll talk about that. But it's important. It's very impossible to work through burnout because you cannot find the solution. Since the solution is sort of the problem. The problem with burnout is that there's a divergence between what you feel like you're motivated by personally and then how you're actually exerting that motivation, right? If you don't actually want to cut all these files, but you feel like you have to, you can only overwork yourself so much until your mind and your body eventually say, no more, I can't do this anymore. Debate's dumb. It's a competition for nerds, right? And that's sort of how burnout happens. So you have to take a step back. What exactly are you burnt out from? As a feeling, you might feel like you're burnt out from just debate. But oftentimes you're not. It's not just debate. Because there are tremendously good parts of debate that you will always still want to have, right? Friends, the community. Watching rounds is pretty fun. Cutting files that you think are fun, that's fun. And then there's another part of debate, which is the competition and the stress with that. And oftentimes you're burnt out from that particular aspect. Is it the pressure and the anxiety? Is it that you're just not sleeping? Is it that you're worried about college applications and that, oh, I have to cut the CapK file, my coach is mad at me, but I have to do my Dartmouth application, all that stuff, right? Is that combination all that? You have to take a step back and genuinely, in good faith, interrogate yourself and what you are stressed out from and what you are burning out from in a similar way to what I talked about with overcoming anxiety. Second is that once you understand what you're actually burnt out from, you can take a break or change the way in which you're debating. So oftentimes you're not going to be burnt out in, the first term of the year in August, and you'll probably not be burnt out from the last tournament you have, because those are sort of the most important tournaments. So you'll probably be burnt out by the process of over-focusing on debate, which then eventually causes a catch-up, and the motivation and exertion divergence. So if you need to take a break from one tournament in September or January, that's not going to make or break your season. Like, if you need a weekend to chill with your non-debate friends, absolutely just take it. If your coach gets mad at you, say, well, I wasn't going to debate well anyways. I don't really care about debate. So, I'm done. But if you still want to debate, if you actually want to go to the tournament, I have some suggestions that you can do. Obviously, this applies to some people less than others. Maybe you want to go for arguments that you find more fun. Maybe you want to debate with another partner. Maybe you want speaker positions. I've done all these, and mixing up the monotony of debate helps, and it works, and it makes debate feel as fun as you realize, at least for me. But I really like debate. So maybe if you like debate slightly less, these things might not work. And if you realize that debate right now is just not what you need, that's okay, right? Sometimes you have to take breaks from things that you love and realize once you're gone, what you're missing from that. And you have to realize, what did I like about debating? and what did I not like about debating? And that solution doesn't come with one day off of debate. You know, if you have to take a step back and take a break, absolutely do that. And it takes time. And then you sort of think about, what do I actually miss? What do I actually miss about my relationship with debate? And what can I do in the future to focus more on what I like and what I don't like? The third issue is an over-focus on debate. And the issue here is not that you have a bad relationship with debate itself, but that you're spending too much time on it. And the result is an underappreciation, under-focus on the other facets of your life that certainly do matter. Health, socially, family, grades. So that's also a reason why getting better at the other skills in your life also helps with debate. Because if you're just focusing on debate, all those things are going to catch up to you. You're going to be behind in those things, to be honest. And this might feel bad. It feels like you're swamped and you really like debate, but it's hurting your life, actually. This will also magnify the effect of wins and losses, because if you care so much about debate, if it's your main thing, winning and losing a tournament will become a manifestation of how you feel about those other facets of life. Make your entire month bad. And it might be like, oh, my life's doomed. It's cooked. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not even good at the one thing I care about. And now suddenly here we are. My grades are bad. And this has happened to me tons of times. Like, I've failed. I've over-focused on debate. My grades have been terrible. And it sucks. It really does suck. It's a really bad thing, especially in high school where you have so much on your plate. In college is easy, man. College is easy, right? You go to class for 15 to 18 hours a week, which is like 2 days of high school. The rest of that, you can do whatever you want, right? In high school, you got to worry about what college you're going to get into. You got to worry about all the high school sucks. You have to worry about all the social stuff with high school. You have to worry about debate too. You have to worry about your grades. Your teachers are weird in high school, to be honest. College professors, they're chill. High school teachers, some of them are just draconian and strange. You have to focus on that stuff. Like, that stuff is not going to go away just because you're focusing on debate, right? If debate is your solace in life, you're going to just mask the other things that matter in life, and then eventually this is going to catch up to you and cause stress. So while the solution is intuitive, focus less on debate, how one gets there is slightly complex, because I can't, and I don't want to say that debate should be, in competition should be less motivating for you, because debates can be extremely fun. But if it has larger personal costs, if it's hurting your life more, then that's bad. And you can't really tell an obsessed poet to stop writing poetry, even if she should really stop writing poetry and, focus on her health or sleeping more or whatever. In the same way, I'm going to sound crazy, but debate is kind of an art. It is sort of an obsession for some people. And I don't want to tell that obsessed person to stop being obsessed, because those levels of obsession, some people in life will just not find. And if debate is that your obsession, if it is your passion, then you should feel lucky that you have found that. But debate, as with any sort of relationship, has opportunity costs that you might have to be willing to pay if you really love it. Like, if I did not do debate, my grades would be better. But I made a sort of compromise where I focus on my grades just enough where I feel confident, I feel good about my academic standing, while simultaneously realizing debate's my passion. I've chosen debate as my thing, and that is good. And I love that. That's my thing. That's who I am. I'm a loser nerd. I love policy debate. That's just what it is. Okay? So you have to realize that if you think that the opportunity costs are getting too high and stressful, that is bad. And you should not make debate just a mask to help your other personal insecurities and the other things that are going on in your life. First is that the way in which you solve this, first, is that you need to make a genuine attempt at opportunity cost comparison. At some point, you have to make your bed, you have to do your laundry, you have to take out the trash, even on mornings where you really, really, really don't want to, right? You just have to do it. That's just how life is. That's why life sucks, right? You have to keep doing it. Laundry sucks. I have to do it every 2 weeks. Sucks. And if you're about to fail 3 classes because you're cutting the Buddhism K, you got to put it on the back burner. You got to put the Buddhism K on the back burner. The Buddhism K, that can happen in March, January, or whatever your finals. You weren't paying attention because you're cutting Buddhism cards in class all the time. 2021-22 Jack Young, realize that like Buddhism K, it's fun, it makes you feel good, but you just have to do the things in life that matter. Sometimes. You just have to do it. And me telling you that you have to do these things might not fix that, because you know that you have to take care of these things. You know that you have personal responsibilities. In high school, you're becoming a more responsible person. In college, especially so, you're basically your own person. So you have to be careful. And you have to generally, personally, realize that, no matter how hard it is. Second solution to overfocusing on debate is that you have to realize what debate really is as an activity. It is a passion, but our passions are not what define us necessarily. Okay? When someone asks you what you do and you say debate, that is what the person will think of you as, right? As a debater. And they might think you're cool, intelligent, a nerd. All that might be true. But passions do not define us. I am not debate. I am a debater. Okay? So, just because it is a passion does not mean that debate does not have valid criticisms that make an opportunity cost that make your life better or worse. And that's just true. And because debate is unfair, because it is a game that we love, despite it being unfair, tremendously unfair, it cannot determine everything else in your life. And the other parts of your life, if your grades are bad and you feel terrible about that, then you're not going to debate as well. And that's true. So if you want to become the best debater possible, you have to take care of your house. You have to take care of your grades. You have to take care of your family. You have to take care of your other friends. You have to take care of your body. You have to do all that stuff. Because if you don't take care of any of those things, then when the round happens, where you need to be as sharp as possible, you'll be dull. And you need to realize that. Last issue with debate is climbing the chart. So, oftentimes, either inter-team or intra-team or inter-team, so on a team or in a community, the skill consensus is just wrong, as I talked about this. If you're on a big team, maybe you wish that you were traveling. If you're on a big team, maybe you wish that people appreciated your disad that you spent a lot of time on more. And in the community, this effect is even worse. It's a reinforcing cycle, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because good teams win, then judges think they're good, and if the judges don't know who you are, they might vote for the good team. This is the rep effect. It also determines who gets in labs, so if you're already perceived as good, then you get the best level of education in the summer, then you get better. And that sucks. It's unfair. And who even gets brought up in the hidden Discord conversations, that also matters. Which is obviously quite frustrating, for obvious reasons. Because you care about skill, you care about improving, and you care about what other people think. So, let's talk about it. How to get over it. One is that you have to realize that the chart is an illusion. It's the result of a, quote, consensus that makes zero sense. Not every team, not every debater has the same recognition of who's good and bad. And most variations of a consensus are completely inaccurate, as I said. No one has watched every single debater debate. Not everyone has watched you. Not everyone knows your strengths and weaknesses. They can only see the tab room. But just looking at the tab room does not understand the complexities of what happened in a particular round. If you lost a round against a very good team and it was very close, closer than people thought, maybe it was 60-40 instead of 90-10, that matters. But the fact that it is an illusion is a benefit because it makes it incredibly flexible. If it's an illusion, why are we talking about illusions? Why do we care about illusions? Reminder that that external process of validation is not why you're debating. It is just not. It might be why you think you're debating, but it's not. And B, if it is flexible, once you do have a round where you beat the good team, when there's a judge who doesn't know, or a judge who isn't as affected by the rep effect, and you win fairly, people start to talk about you. People start to realize it. So the solution is doing all the stuff I said previously and improving your craft and debate, right? So improvement solves climbing the chart. There will obviously always be a divergence between skill and consensus on skill. So the process of improving at debate does not immediately solve the chart effect. But it's very difficult for someone to honestly say a debater is bad if she is not bad. If you're very good at going for psychoanalysis, people will be scared of you when they're answering psychoanalysis. That's just true. And whether they say that or not doesn't matter, because why do we care what people say, right? If you really do care about what other people think, then you care about what they think, not what they tell you what they think, right? So you have to get better at that process of specializing and then overcoming the odds and beating teams. And that is what competition's all about. And that's what matters. And this requires lots of patience and enjoying the process of improvement rather than the status alone of being the best. Because the status is illusory, which is why the imposter syndrome manifests, right? Because the idea that people think you're good can be washed away in a second by a debate, or so you think, because it is an illusion. So the imposter syndrome is paradoxical, right? You care about the illusion, but it is still an illusion. And the illusion makes itself feel like you're always in a sense of insecurity in debate, competitive insecurity. But because it is illusion, why does it matter? We're not talking about truth here. Imposter syndrome, climbing the chart, all these are not reflections on reality. They're questions about community consensus, which we have already detailed extensively why it does not matter, what is amorphous. So this requires the process of acceptance, and getting better requires patience fundamentally. And enjoys the process of competitive improvement rather than just winning or losing a round, right? Because if you're actually making genuine attempts to improve in debate, if you are seriously giving drills, if you are seriously attempting to do practice debates against good teams you know are going to swamp you on your team, they might get upset. It's like, oh, why am I wasting my time? I can beat these guys. Whatever. Who cares, right? If you're doing drills, if you're cutting cards, right? Cutting cards is a very quick way for lots of people to get that level of climbing the chart, because cutting cards on a team helps every single debater. And oftentimes on teams, interestingly, the best debaters are not the ones who are cutting. And the most annoying thing on debate teams is when you're cutting a lot for the top team. The top team's winning a bunch of rounds, and you're sort of the unspoken factor in that team winning, and the team is just not grateful. Well, whether they're grateful or not, the reality is that your card won them that round, right? And if we genuinely want to care about how good we are in actually improving and enjoying the iterative process of improving and helping your team win, then being grateful or not grateful from their perspective, that doesn't matter, because you are already there. You are already in those rounds. And a lot of good teams will be grateful, and that feels great. And they'll be happy that you're helping them out. And that is a dynamic on teams that is significant and matters and is important. And if you do at least moderately care about research, if you think it's at least somewhat fun, like, I don't love the process of research, truly, but I recognize that making arguments and helping the team win rounds, that does matter. I think that in debate, there is not enough team cohesion, because debate is a team game. Of course, you have your partner, but you have the whole process of how we even get to how good that team is. If you practice debate a team, the top team, and they go for a DA, and for the first time, it's a new DA, you debate it. The other team's like, okay, I know how teams are going to want to debate this new DA. And then they break the DA, and then the AF team that they're debating in the semis or whatever, we've already had that debate, and it's largely because of you, right? So if you're pushing everyone else to be better and be a better competitor, then surely, right, you are a part of that process. And whether it's recognized by the plaques at the end of the tournament, that doesn't matter, because I'm talking about truth. I'm not talking about consensus or illusion. So the chart doesn't matter. It's what you're actually doing that matters. And it's actually sort of simple to understand how to get better at debate, in a sense. You go to a lot of tournaments, you debate a lot, you do practice debates, you do drills. I'm not the best at telling you actually what steps to take in terms of that, but I can give you a structure to think about improvement, and that's what I hope I've done here. I hope you all enjoyed this. This is obviously a lot different than everything that was going on previously. I'll probably stick to more debate technical topics very soon, but I thought that was an important lecture. So if you have any comments, feedback, concerns, questions for me, I'm happy to talk about it. So yes, thank you.